Under the yellow light of the dining room chandelier, the crystal glasses trembled slightly as my hand hovered above them. David, my father, stood across the table, eyes narrowed, lips trembling with barely concealed rage. My suitcase lay open by the door, stuffed hastily with notebooks, applications, the rejection letter from Columbia still half crumpled on top. I hadn't meant for him to find it, but he did. "You were going to leave?" His voice was soft, deadly. "Without saying a word to me?" I stared at him, my heart thrashing in my chest. "You weren't going to let me go." "You're goddamn right I wasn't," he snapped, stepping forward. "You think you're special? That the world's going to hand you something just because you want it?" "It's not about being special," I said, each word breaking off sharp. "It's about doing something that matters to me." "Matters?" He laughed, joyless. "What matters is keeping this house running, paying the bills, not chasing some fantasy. Dreams don't feed you, a job does." I looked at my mom. She stood by the sink, arms crossed, her eyes a dull gray that never met mine. She didn't say a word. "I got a scholarship," I said. "Half tuition. I've been working double shifts at the gas station. I can cover the rest." "You're not going," he cut me off. "You're staying right here. You'll work at the mill like I did, like my father did." I clenched my fists. "You're not me." He took 2 steps closer, so near I could smell the aftershave he only wore on Sundays. "Number." "But I made you. You want to spit in the face of everything I bled for?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat burned, and something inside me cracked open. Then came the worst of it. The moment he reached past me, grabbed the suitcase, and with one swift motion, dumped it upside down. Papers spilled like water. Books hit the floor with dull thuds. My laptop crashed and split at the hinge. I dropped to my knees. "What the hell are you doing?" "You want to run?" he barked. "Then run. But don't come crawling back when the world eats you alive." I looked up at him, and all I saw was the face of a man who'd rather bury his son than let him become someone he didn't understand. I didn't cry. Not yet. Not while he was watching. I just started picking up the pieces one by one. The morning after felt like breathing through gauze, muted, thick, and full of a pain I couldn't name. I stayed in my room, lights off, curtains drawn, the broken laptop still lying on the floor like a dead bird. My dreams, my plans, everything I'd built in silence over the last 2 years, gone in minutes. But I didn't leave. Not yet. Instead, I started to listen. I heard him talking on the phone to Uncle Ray, complaining about Ethan's nonsense. I heard him boasting to the neighbors that I was finally coming around. I heard my mother humming in the kitchen as if nothing had happened. I heard the vacuum cleaner drown out my breathing. That night, I waited until everyone was asleep. Then I picked up every paper he'd crumpled, every ripped page and scorched printout. I smoothed them, taped what I could, and organized them into a folder. My fingers shook, but not with grief, with a strange, gathering focus. He thought he'd stopped me. He hadn't. The next week, I started calling community colleges. Every lunch break at the mill, I sat in the locker room, eating cold sandwiches and researching night classes. It wasn't Columbia, but it was mine. I spoke to an advisor at a school 2 towns over, told her the truth, that I couldn't afford to leave, but I needed to start something. She didn't flinch. "That's how a lot of people begin," she said. "Starting is the hardest part." I scraped together the $60 application fee from my tips. Then I got a second job on weekends, cleaning at a hotel off the highway. I didn't tell anyone, not even Mom. I just left early, came home late, and hid the ache in my legs behind long showers. I'd see him sometimes, sitting in front of the TV, a beer in hand, barking at some news anchor, as if the world owed him something, as if sacrifice meant control. One night, Mom brought up my name at dinner. "Ethan's been working a lot." she said softly. David didn't look up. About time he earned his keep. She glanced at me. Her face was unreadable, but her fingers twitched on the tablecloth. I didn't argue. I didn't break. I waited. Because I knew the day would come. The day he'd put on his best shirt and gather his friends to celebrate himself, and I would finally speak. Not in whispers, not in shame, in truth. And they would all hear it. It was raining the night I got the email. Not thunder, not drama, just a steady, quiet drizzle that tapped on the window like a clock ticking down. I'd been waitlisted at first, then months later, accepted into the night program in psychology at Western County Community College. The letter was short, direct, and coldly administrative. But I stared at it like it was a secret no one else knew. I didn't cry. I didn't even smile. I just folded it neatly, placed it in my drawer, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. But nothing could prepare me for what happened next. A week before David's 60th birthday party, I lost both jobs. The mill downsized, and the hotel changed cleaning contracts. In a single week, every plan I'd built began to crumble again. I spent the days wandering, avoiding home, chewing through thoughts like glass. When I told Mom, her eyes filled. With pity, not surprise. "Maybe it's a sign," she whispered. "Maybe you should just settle down for now." I looked at her. "Is that what you did?" She didn't answer. I spent that night on a bench behind the town library, cold seeping into my bones, the acceptance letter in my pocket like a cruel joke. I don't know what cracked. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the years. But something gave out, and I started shaking, full body, like a man losing something vital. I gritted my teeth, pressed my hands to my face, but the tears came anyway. It wasn't just about school anymore. It was about being invisible, about speaking and watching the words disappear before they touched anyone. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip something apart. Instead, I walked home at dawn, soaked and hollow, and slept through the whole day. The days bled together. I stopped opening emails, stopped answering texts. When my friend Marcus asked if I was okay, I said, "Yeah." So easily it scared me. I kept thinking maybe David was right, that the world wasn't meant for people like me, that maybe wanting more was just selfishness wrapped in fantasy. The night before his birthday, I stared at myself in the mirror, pale, empty. Nothing in my face looked like mine. So I shaved. I put on the one clean shirt I had left, and I whispered to my reflection, "You owe him nothing." And for the first time in months, I believed it, because I wasn't going to ask for permission anymore. The banquet hall glowed with soft amber lights, polished silverware, and the hum of conversation. Laughter pinged off the high ceiling like echoes from another world. I walked in alone, uninvited but expected, like rain on a wedding day. David stood near the center, dressed in a sharp navy suit, shaking hands, soaking in praise. The kind of man who never needed a microphone because his presence was the broadcast. "Ethan?" someone said behind me. Aunt Marcy, her voice syrupy and brittle. "Oh, honey, you made it. He'll be so happy." Would he? I nodded, stepped past her, and moved toward the long table at the front. The cake behind it was absurd. 3 tiers, white and gold, with David, 60 years strong, scrawled in cursive across the top. I didn't eat. I didn't drink. I waited. When the speeches began, I stood in the back, hands clenched behind me, heart low and quiet like a predator's breath. One by one, friends and family praised him, his sacrifices, his grit, his wisdom, words stacked like bricks on a mausoleum. Then, a pause. The mic was free. I moved. My footsteps were steady, measured. People shifted as I passed, surprised, expectant. I climbed the small stage, nodded to the MC, and took the microphone. Silence. "Hi," I said, voice level. I'm Ethan, David's son. A few claps, then stillness. I scanned the room, found his eyes. They were amused, maybe even proud. He thought I'd thank him. I didn't. I wanted to say something about my father, I continued. Not about the man you know, but the one I do. The air thickened. When I was 17, I got into a school he didn't believe I deserved. I worked 2 jobs. I applied without telling anyone. I tried, quietly, because I knew if I told him, he'd kill it before it had a chance. A murmur rippled through the guests. Someone shifted uncomfortably in a chair. And I was right. He found my bag, tore up my letters, told me dreams were garbage. He said the only thing that mattered was working, not thinking, not growing, not becoming. Just surviving, like him. I turned toward him now. You didn't raise a son, Dad. You raised a shadow, and every time I tried to step out of it, you stomped me back in. His face was stone, but his hand gripped the armrest like a man caught in undertow. I'm not here to shame you, I said. I'm here to stop pretending, to stop smiling through the weight, because tonight, while everyone's celebrating your strength, I want them to know what it cost. A beat. I stepped back from the mic and walked off the stage. No applause, no music, just the sound of my breath and the weight of truth finally said aloud. Forks hovered in the air, glasses trembled mid-toast. No one moved. David didn't speak. He didn't stand. He just sat there, the corners of his mouth twitching like they were deciding whether to harden or collapse. His eyes met mine, not in fury, not in shame, but in something unreadable, something stripped. Behind him, the cake leaned slightly, untouched. My mother looked at me, not away, not down, at me, and that was enough. I turned, walked past rows of stiff-backed chairs, sequined dresses, forgotten speeches. At the doorway, I paused. And then I stepped out into the night. It had stopped raining.